Ben McKee, Patrick Brown, Go Vols 24/7 here on campus on Tuesday of Virginia Week. Got to talk to a couple of position coaches, and the first one was Mack, Tennessee's running backs coach, and he seems to like where Tennessee's at from a pass protection standpoint with his room. Talked about how in years past it was a main focal point, and also that they felt like they let the team down at times, but with the work that they've put in the last couple of years, he feels like that's in a good spot going into the season.
Yeah, he seemed really high on the depth they have in the backfield. Almost made it sound like they feel comfortable rolling 4 guys out there when you throw Cam Seldon into the 3 guys that have returned. And he said it's the best depth that they've had since he's been here. He's in his 3rd season. So, and part of that is that there's 4 guys potentially that the staff trusts, and coaches aren't going to trust you if you can't protect the quarterback. The quarterback's the franchise. You can't have your quarterback taking big hits and fumbling the football and things like that. So they're not going to put you out there if you can't protect the quarterback. And if they've got 3 and 4 guys that they trust, then that makes me think that their pass blocking is better than it was in the past.
Yeah, and JeanMarie was the second and final assistant to speak. Said that Keenan Peely and Aaron Beasley had really good fall camps, which is kind of known at this point. But he also touched on the depth and spoke highly of Arion Carter and Jeremiah Thielander, 2 freshmen that had good camps as well. And you also asked about Elijah Herring.
Yeah, and he said that they feel 100 times better about putting Elijah Herring in games than they did compared to a year ago. And Elijah has always looked like $1 million. He's always looked like an SEC linebacker from the first day he got on campus last January. But now he said, JeanMarie said that the game has really slowed down for Herring. Things are moving slower. That's sort of a natural process. He's a guy that was kind of an edge guy in high school, so being an off-ball linebacker was kind of new for him. And he got here early last season, so he's had really kind of 2 full off seasons now to make that adjustment. And you saw sort of the light kind of come on for Herring this offseason. He looks like a guy with Arion Carter. I think those are going to be the top 2 guys behind Aaron Beasley and Keenan Peely that are going to play a lot of football for Tennessee.
Yeah, and the first player we spoke to was Jacob Warren, Tennessee's tight end, and I thought it was interesting that he feels like the duo of this season with Jacob Warren and McCallum Castles is going to be very similar to the duo of last season of Jacob Warren and Princeton Fant.
Yeah, it's got to be weird for Warren because he's really been starting next to Fant for 3 years now. I mean, they did that even before this staff got here back in 2020. They were kind of the top 2 guys. So you got this other guy showing up from California that's also an old head, kind of like Jacob is. And but Castles is a guy that again, I've said this before. I don't think he's going to be throwing 60-yard bombs on double passes. I don't know, maybe he can. I don't know if he's going to be getting the ball as a fullback, but I think he can do a lot of good things to help this offense. He can do all the things that they're going to ask tight ends to do in terms of being able to block in the core, split out wide. They line up all over the field, and Castles has really done a good job over the course of the summer getting comfortable in the offense and knowing what to do. And I think he's going to really ensure that position really has no drop-off, and there's a chance he could improve on it because I think he's a guy that could be an upgrade as a pass catcher because he's a big guy. He's got great hands and a good catch radius.
Yeah, we also spoke to Omari Thomas, and he kind of kept with the theme of depth. They're talking about the defensive line, and one guy that I asked about was Dominic Bailey because there's a lot of guys that are going to play, but Dominic Bailey isn't really one that's talked about a ton right now.
Yeah, he was listed as if you go by the depth chart, which beware if you do, but it could be either Dominic Bailey or Tyler Barron. I know I had Bailey listed on the depth chart we projected last week, so I think he's a guy that's quietly had a good offseason. He seems like a guy that Rodney Garner just probably has a lot of trust in. Latrell Bumpus was that guy last season who didn't get a lot of pub, but he was one of the guys that Rodney Garner, obviously played him a lot. So I'm not saying Bailey's going to be that good or be that guy, but he could be that guy, and he's a guy that's steadily come along over the course of his career, redshirted early on, and has really sort of went in the rotation last season, and now I think he's going to potentially be a guy that plays a lot for this defensive line.
Yeah, we also spoke lastly to Romel Keaton, and he talked about how the wide receiver room has a real professional approach to it and that there's really no drop-off. People think of Chaz Nimrod and Caleb Webb as backups, but there's not going to be a drop-off if they have to go in, and they'll be able to produce.
Yeah, that's a room where what the guys have done in the past has sort of set the standard. What Bayless Jones, Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, what those guys did, that's been carried on by guys like Romel Keaton, by guys like Brew McCoy. In Keaton's case, he can tell Chaz Nimrod and Caleb Webb, hey, you got to stay ready because you never know when you might get thrown into a game for 80 snaps. We saw what Keaton did last year when Cedric Tillman went down. So he's a great resource for those young guys, and I think he likes what those guys have done.
4 days until it's football time in Tennessee. It's Tuesday in Virginia Week. He's Patrick Brown. I'm Ben McKee.